watching? Tell me who's watching? Who's watching me?
When we talk about the media and its impact, we must first understand that which measures it, the audience. The audience is what weighs the success or failure of media in the form of viewers for television, listeners for radio, and readers for websites and newspapers. The audience itself seems to be the overall scoring rubric for any media. The bigger the audience, the more effective your media is. If you want to figure out whether your voice is being heard, you count how many people are listening. The audience is made up of so many different people that it cannot be understood what each individual is grasping. This argument was made by Stuart Hall. He believed that the audience cannot be held to only one analysis of any given media presentation. Although his work dealt with the role of text, it is obvious that his theory could be extended to other mediums as well. Stuart Hall's theory was coined the reception theory, as it dealt with how audiences receive the meanings of text. He concentrated on how different demographics such as gender, race, social status, age, and etc. affect one's reception of text. This brings us to the encoding and decoding theory that Stuart Hall was all about. The theory looks very simple. The decoder is the person receiving and interpreting the text, while the encoder is the one presenting the media. The encoder forms his or her text, or any other media, with a certain idea or message in mind. He or she places this central theme into the media with the intention that those following it will grasp it. As you can see in the structure, the text is where semiotics come into play. The decoder takes the media handed to him or her, scans it for the symbolism that he or she feels is most important. Hall proposed that the encoder can only hope that his or her message will be taken in the same way as it was intended. But because words can mean many different things in various contexts and situations, the decoder is free to take from it what he or she may. Hall also discussed the three ways the decoder will interpret media, with a preferred interpretation, negotiated interpretation, or an oppositional interpretation. Preferred interpretation means that the decoder will accept and understand the message embedded in the media by the encoder 100%, without including any of his or her opinions or ideas. Negotiated interpretation is when the decoder does understand the message being given to him or her from the encoder, but also respectfully contributes his or her own point of view and interest to add on to that of the encoder. Lastly, an oppositional interpretation would be one in which the decoder completely overlooks the message in the media presented by the encoder. With that, the decoder will blend the media to fit their own thought process without accepting anything from the encoder. This theory can be tested by looking at the differences between newspaper reading audiences and magazine audiences. When people read magazines, they generally believe half of what they see because of the vague sources, making them all oppositional interpreters. But when reading a newspaper, it is seen by most audiences that the source is reliable, and therefore they are preferred interpreters in that they accept all the information given. These three ways of accepting media can be compared to the ways that Ian Eng feels people act when receiving it. She felt that there are only two types of audiences, active and passive. Once again, Eng's work dealt with only television, but it can be extended to other medium as well. An active audience is one which responds to the message being given in a certain media, while a passive audience would be one that sits idle and takes in information without really showing any interpretation back. Her work shows ways in which the audience is important. As an active audience, people could have a say in what is being shown, when, and why. She felt if all audiences became active, the television intake would cater to popular opinion. She argued that instead of being passive, giving feedback and going against bad media could possibly actually change something. We can see this happening at concerts and sporting events. When the crowd enjoys something, they scream and shout, and when they find something offensive or wronged, they boo and reject the actions. The ways that Hall and Eng analyze audiences sheds light on what the real role of audiences is. Many tend to forget the fact that the media is run by the audience, basically the people, and in turn the people forget their importance. The audience is the most significant contributor to the media, its fuel and its power. Without it, there would be no media, and Hall and Eng understood that concept.